We'll call to order the special meeting of the school board for Tuesday, July 29th, 2025. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. We'd invite you to stand as able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. One A, our school board meeting norms. Mr. Manley.
Be prepared, be on time, value and respect each other, exercise thoughtful and deliberation and conversation, be professional at the board table and when visiting with the general public, speak up when the norms are not being followed, and advocate on behalf of students and keep the community in mind.
Thank you. Under 2, Superintendent's recommendations for action 2A is our consent agenda. I would seek a motion for approval of the consent agenda as outlined in your board packet. It's been moved by Mr. Palmasino. Is there a second? Second. A second by Dr. Lunn. We'll take a roll call vote.
Manley?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Hodak?
Yes.
Klevin?
Yes.
Larson is absent. Palmasino?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
Lunn?
Yes.
Berger?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no, 1 absent.
Motion passes. 2B, school board committees and community liaison appointments for 2025-2026. As you can see, as outlined in your memo, Dr. Brenner and I met, took your various pieces of information into consideration and did our best work for both committee appointments and the community and building liaison assignments for this upcoming year. We also have, as you notice, the desire to have a school board member from District 1 at each of our monthly meetings on the Air Force Base, and so that is outlined as well. Dr. Brenner and I would stand for any questions. Otherwise, the administrative recommendation and my recommendation is to approve these committee and community liaison appointments for the Grand Forks School Board members for the fiscal year upcoming as presented. So any questions from board members? Yes, Mr. Klevin?
The pending is for what?
Yep, that would be
Pending
for
is for what?
District 140,
Okay,
those appointments.
thank you.
Great question. Appreciate the opportunity to clarify that. Any further questions from board members? Before I seek this recommendation, I just want to thank all of our board members for their work on these appointments. These are extra meetings, extra preparation, and we don't often get to pause and highlight that. So much appreciation in advance for the work you all are about to do. With that, I would seek a motion to approve the committee and community liaison appointments as outlined in your packet. It's been moved by Mr. Manley. Is there a second? A second by Mr. Anderson. Is there any further discussion? We'll take a roll call vote.
Lunn?
Yes.
Palmasino?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Klevin?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Larson is absent. Hodak?
Yes.
Berger?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no, 1 absent.
Motion passes. 2C, this is the appointment of Behavioral Health and Wellness Director, Dr. Glatch.
Thank you, Chair Berger. As you can see in your packet, there's a recommendation to approve and to welcome back Dr. Amy Gaynor to Grand Forks Public Schools as the new Behavioral Health and Wellness Director, effective August 4th. So currently, Dr. Gaynor is working at the University of Mary as an assistant professor and the internship supervisor for the counseling department, and prior to that she had 13 years of counseling experience, 12 right here in Grand Forks Public Schools, so she knows our district well. She helped craft some of the crises plans that we are still using today, and we are really going to tap into her expertise to make sure that we continue the great services that we have and continue to develop additional services around mental health and wellness. So you can see in the packet that there was a comprehensive interview team. Both Matt and I were on that, the Director of Special Education Process Facilitator, a school psychologist, a school counselor, and a district social worker, which are many members of the broader behavioral health team. So the recommendation is to approve the hiring of Dr. Amy Gaynor for the 25-26 school year at a salary of $109,594. And please take any questions at this time.
Questions for Dr. Glatch? Dr. Lund?
So does she just get added into the director grid and stuff?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Other questions from board members? Yes, Ms. Flynn?
Is this the salary that, to piggyback after Dr. Lund, is this the salary that she'll start with, or is she offered this and then when the school year starts, she'll get the increase?
This includes the increase, is
Okay.
my understanding.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions for Dr. Glatch? Oh, we have a motion to hire Dr. Amy Geinert for 25-26 school year. The salary, $104,594, $5,000 education factor, total of $109,594. That motion by Ms. Flynn. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Clevin. Is there any further discussion? We'll take a roll call vote.
Hodak,
Yes.
Clevin,
Yes.
Manley,
Yes.
Larson is absent, Flynn,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Palmasino, Berger,
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no, 1 absent.
Motion passes. 2D, compensation recommendation for Chief Academic Officer. Dr. Brenner.
Thank you, President Berger. In front of you, you have 4 memos. I'll be taking you through the first of 4, and this is for Chief Academic Officer Amy Barch. And these conversations are a little bit different because the 4 individuals I'm talking about tonight are not represented by any group, but they negotiate individually for each other, so for themselves, excuse me. So for Amy Barch, I'm just going to provide a little context and clarification regarding why some of the numbers are different in some of the memos. For Ms. Barch, the request is for a 5% increase in year 1, 3% increase in year 2. And the rationale for us going a little bit higher with Ms. Barch is she has a more active role in our superintendent meetings that happen every Monday. Now it's going to be every Tuesday. She has a more active role in school board meetings and presentations and with the Be Legendary work that we've done around academic achievement. And it moves her closer to equitable pay in terms of positions comparable to hers across the state. When I say across the state, I'm really talking about the largest 6 school districts. She was quite a ways behind some of the others. So that's the rationale behind the 5%, 3% for Ms. Barch. So in year 1, you can see everything has been outlined in terms of what the base is, the percentage of increase, and then the education factor. So in year 1, it's $153,580. In year 2, with the base pay of $155,839.26, plus her education factor, brings her total to $158,039.82. I'd respectfully seek approval for the above recommended compensation for Chief Academic Officer Amy Barch for the 2025-26 school year and the 26-27 school year as well. Thank you.
Questions for Dr. Brenner? Dr. Lund?
I don't know if it's Dr. Brenner or Brandon or somebody else, but I know in the past we've done compensation surveys about, where do people sit in various job descriptions, and I just can't remember how long ago we did that for the director kinds of groups, or is there a cadence that we're going to, every 3 years, we're going to do some surveying and look at what does the athletic director do, what does buildings and grounds do? I'm just curious where we are with that. Thank you.
I'll go ahead and take the first swing. Actually, Business Manager Bombach presented me with information from the other large school districts because the business managers actually collate that information. So it's all based on the 24-25 actual that we're comparing to. So that is what I used for a benchmark for the 4 that are in front of you today.
Just a quick follow-up. So you're looking at just North Dakota schools?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Dr. Brenner? It's been moved by Dr. Lund to approve the recommended compensation as outlined in your packet for Chief Academic Officer Amy Barch for 25-26 and 26-27 fiscal years. Is there a second? A second by Mr. Anderson. Any further discussion? We'll take a roll call vote.
Flynn.
Yes.
Hodak.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Manley.
Yes.
Lund.
Yes.
Klevin.
Yes.
Palmasino. Larson is absent. Berger.
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no, 1 absent.
Motion passes. 2E, compensation recommendation for business manager. Dr. Brenner.
Thank you. Same holds true for Business Manager Bombach. The recommendation is for a 2-year compensation package. His percents are a little bit less, but they're in line with the averages across teachers, directors, and principals at 2.88% in year 1, 2.85% in year 2. I'm pretty confident Mr. Bombach wouldn't want me to say this, but the offer to him was greater than what's in front of you, and he respectfully and politely declined that offer. So I did go back to him a second time, and we had that conversation. He's comfortable with what's in front of you. So for Mr. Bombach, it's 2.88% in year 1, 25-26, for a total of $151,665.70. And in year 2, it's $155,988.17. And I would respectfully seek approval for the above recommended compensation for Business Manager Brandon Bombach for the 25-26 and 26-27 school years.
Questions for Dr. Brenner? Dr. Lund?
Well, I think that's very admirable, but I think we have to be careful and make sure that we keep people in market range. I know we had a superintendent recently that did that for a few years, and I think we just have to be careful. I think it's very admirable, and I appreciate you doing that, but we want to make sure that we pay our people at a good market rate too as well, so.
Other questions from board members? It's been moved by Ms. Flynn to approve the recommended compensation as outlined for Business Manager Brandon Bombach for the 25-26 and 26-27 fiscal years. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Palmasino. Any further discussion? We'll take a roll call vote.
Palmasino.
Yes.
Lund.
Yes.
Larson is absent. Flynn.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Hodak.
Yes.
Manley.
Yes.
Klevin.
Yes.
Berger.
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no, 1 absent.
Motion passes. 2F, compensation recommendation for Associate Superintendent of Secondary Education. Dr. Brenner?
Thank you again, President Berger. You can see in front of you the 2-year package for Dr. Galach would be 3% in year 1 and 3% in year 2, and that puts Dr. Galach in the range of the averages of principals and directors, more of our central office folks. So you'll see in year 1, it's 185, 144, which includes, got my new trifocals on here. It's the 3% equals the 179, 752, which equals 155, 144, plus the $5,000 education factor because she did secure her doctorate this year. Congratulations again. So for a total of $190,144 in year 1. In year 2, the 3% factor through all the multiplying and additions of the education factor totals $195,698.32. And that puts Dr. Galach in good market value with other assistant and associate superintendents in the Big 6 school districts. So recommendation is for approval for Dr. Galach's 2025-26 and 26-27 contracts compensation.
Questions for Dr. Brenner? Seek a motion to approve the recommended compensation for Associate Superintendent Dr. Galach for 25-26 and 26-27. It's been moved by Mr. Klevin. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Manley. Any further discussion? Take a roll call vote.
Anderson.
Yes.
Flynn.
Yes.
Klevin.
Yes.
Hodak.
Yes.
Palmasino.
Yes.
Larson is absent. Lund.
Yes.
Manley.
Yes.
Berger.
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no, 1 absent.
Motion passes. 2G, compensation recommendation for Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Education. Dr. Brenner.
Thank you. In front of you would be the same percentages as the previous. one that I just went over, 3% on 179,550 equals that increase. So when you add the two together, the 184, 936 and 50 cents plus the education factor that Mr. Bakke has totals 187,836 and 50 cents in year one. For the 26-27 school year, the 3% factor is used again, which equates to 190,484 plus the 2,900 education factor for a total of 193,384 and 60 cents. I'd respectfully seek approval for the above recommended compensation package for Assistant Superintendent Matt Bakke for the 25-26 and 26-27 fiscal years. Thank you.
Questions for Dr. Brenner? Seek a motion to approve the recommended compensation as outlined for Matt Bakke for 25-26 and 26-27 fiscal years. It's been moved by Mr. Palmasino. Is there a second? A second by Dr. Lund. Any further discussion? We'll take a roll call vote.
Clevin.
Yep.
Larson is absent. Palmasino.
Yes.
Lund.
Yes.
Manley.
Yes.
Flynn.
Yes.
Hodak.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Berger.
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no, 1 absent.
Motion passes. 2H, consideration of preliminary budget and tax levy for fiscal year 2025-26. Mr. Brandon Bombach.
President Berger, members of the board, I will just go through a presentation to help kind of take some of the numbers off the page and talk a little bit about a couple of different things here. But just before I get to the presentation, just to articulate what's in the memo, it lays out some of the rules around just what we need to do each year as far as setting a preliminary budget and then the process for a final budget. This follows the format of that SFN 9149, which is the document that we end up sending over to the county. You'll see there at the top of that page is where it articulates the number of different mills that are levied each year. And so that's the crux of the preliminary budget impetus, something that we want to get over to the county so that we can advertise a public hearing and folks can come and voice any opinion they have about those number of mills levied. I would just articulate that none of those have changed from the prior year. They're all the same in total of 130.68 mills across the number of different buckets. The one thing that is a little different this year is normally we take the total taxable valuation in the school district and apply those mills, and that's what we get. There will be property tax caps this year. So even at the top of that page, those numbers are greater than what they will be. In fact, I've worked in lower numbers for all the rest of the budget, but we'll be going through some work with the county auditor just to double check, make sure this is all correct come the final budget. So what will end up happening is the mill rates will actually be a little bit less than what's here. These are the maximum amounts, and so that's allowable. You can set a preliminary budget for what anything you think it'll be, and you can't exceed that when you get to your final budget, but you can reduce that. So that's functionally what we'll do as we make sure we get those property tax caps correct. Yes.
Can I ask one follow-up before you go on? Just point of clarification. That cap only applies to existing property and not any new valuation. Could you just illuminate that a bit more, please?
I appreciate the question, President Berger. The cap applies to existing property. So in some cases, if we have a new construction that receives its certificate of occupancy, that would, in the first year post that construction, you'd get that full value. And then years after, you would be limited to 3% increase on that.
Thank you.
It would also apply to different tax increment financing or pilots or anything that would be a tax exemption for a period of time. The first year it comes on the rolls, that full amount would be assessed, and then there'd be that limitation of growth thereafter. And one other point I was going to make there, not going to remember it, but I hope that answers your question. So through the presentation, I just wanted to put a couple of different numbers in context. So this whole presentation is about the preliminary budget and just where we're heading in that process. But to help us understand that preliminary budget, sometimes it's useful to look back on the budget we just wrapped up and just how those year-to-date actuals have come into play, how that informs the next year budget. So first and foremost, the technicalities around this process is the board needs to consider and approve a preliminary budget, as well as set a public hearing date and get that information over to the county by August 10th. We're doing it on July 29th because our next scheduled board meeting is August 11th. So we're doing it now. And the public hearing date set in the motion is September 8th. We do have another board meeting on September 22nd, where it's envisioned that any comment received on the 8th could be incorporated or considered for the final budget consideration on September 22nd, before making its way back to the county by October 10th. And those dates are set in law, so we abide by those. This is just one reminder here of some of the guiding principle to date regarding our general fund carryover balance. So in the top center column, you'll see some of the goals that had set for ourselves a few years back about reaching 15% by 6/30/26. And what that percentage is general fund balance, expend below that percentage of general fund balance. So that's the carryover amount, which is referred to the dollar amount in the piggy bank when we cross from June 30 to July 1, divided by the total expenditures of that year. That's what would give you that percentage. And then furthermore, just the language there is that the total general fund balance. I'm going to articulate just a little bit more information related to restricted funds and unrestricted funds, just for awareness here. The one preface here before we get into the numbers is it would be, at this point, difficult to reach that goal of 15% by 6/30/2026. And the editorial our offer here is largely for growing needs. There are stakeholders all across the district advocating on behalf of students, and so when I show you these budget numbers, it's largely what I would consider to be that case, is that we've had needs arise and things come up that have been worked into the budget, and that has put us in a position where in this last fiscal year, the preliminary numbers coming in are showing that we exceeded budget, all told when you put that together. So this would be a summary of the last fiscal year, that's 24-25 school year. The first column, outside of the green boxes, the first white column, you can see the way we set the budget of revenues, just under 130, expenditures just under 130, and really a modest expectation to end barely just on the positive side. As you go down, you'll see I've included a beginning general fund balance and then the ending fund balance. And so the effect of that budget would increase just a little bit the ending fund balance. There are four numbers there, 2 are percentages and 2 are dollar amounts. The first of those at 12 million is what I think would be included in our goal, is the total carryover balance. That's everything there. The reason I've included the 9.8 million is just to show what the total unrestricted funds are. I think the spirit of the savings account balance is that if you needed it, you could use it. And there are some limitations on some of the funds that carry over. So our goal articulates a general fund balance carryover, which I think is clearly the 12 million. But just I also wanted to show the total unrestricted dollars in case you really needed to use those. And so by the ending fund balance of that budget, not much changes. If you move to the second column, you can see a great deal has changed this year. And that when you look at the revenue, that came in a little less than expected, just over $1 million, which equates to just under 1% of the total budgeted amount. And on expenditures, they did exceed what was budgeted, again, less than 1%, at 0.66%. But that should show, too, just how thin some of the margins are on even a $130 million budget, that a small adjustment like that can really affect that rainy day fund in the end. So I point that out here. That would show that the way those numbers are coming in would be a loss of 1.9 million, taking our ending general fund balance down in either one of those categories that you view to either 7.7 or 6%. Not going in the right direction on our goal. The reason why, largely, and there's a lot of movement throughout a bunch of numbers, but if you just look at what's budgeted to actuals and in that monthly report we receive at the board, what would pop off the page are primarily these two things. The first of those on the expenditure side, and this is salaries and benefits. You put those salaries and benefits together, the actuals exceeded budget by $1.7 million. This is largely due to I think a lot that went into realignment efforts that targeted a reduction of $3.3 million in the salary or in benefits, and not all were realized. There was a whole lot that took place, including when enrollment presented in the fall. For example, one of the goals that we came into that realignment with was to reduce class sections by a number of those, and they just weren't realized. As students showed up, we needed to do more. A couple other examples here would be classroom specialists, inclusion paras, thought they could be reduced. When all told, they actually grew over the course of the year. Again, folks advocating for student needs and administration addressed those, but that exceeded budget. Property tax estimates also were off. This is information we get from the county for the calendar year and the expectation of what will come, and they were off 3%, and so that came to less on the revenue side of $843,000. Those would be the two biggest movements. There's a lot more that come together if you're trying to match the numbers, but you could see how the 1.7 and 840,000 could explain the majority of that 1.9.
Thank you. I just want to add a little more context to what Mr. Bombuck has discussed thus far. Just to put it in some number perspectives, we went into the year anticipating that we would reduce our classroom specialists by 10, and those are our substitute teachers who are basically under contract, who show up at a building each and every day. But given all the conversations that we had with GFEA around special ed teachers not receiving their prep time, not receiving their lunch time, we had to increase those classroom specialists to accommodate that by 10. So that was a 20 FTE swing right there. The inclusion pairs, Brandon already talked about. The classroom reductions at the elementary level, Mr. Bakke was charged with, let's see if you can reduce 8. And at the end of the day, we were able to reduce 1 based on our student enrollment that grew in the fall. Just a couple of other pieces. Fortunate for us, DPI has some set-aside money that's been given to them by the legislature for ML or EL students and for special education students. And Mr. Bombuck has been appointed to an interim committee to take a look at that and see what else we could gain from the state, because that's real money in real time that we could advocate for. We've also enlisted Mr. Bakke and our special education director, Dr. Dietrich, to serve on those committees as well. So we have larger voice and more representation at the state level. So we're still optimistic that we're going to pull in a few more dollars, probably not enough to offset what you see in front of you. And then finally, I would say that during our retreat on August 14th, we're going to spend some time, really analyzing and looking at this, because when we say 15%, carryover, 15% of 130 to 135 million, that's a pretty big number. So we'll want to think about, what that might be moving forward. But it certainly isn't without due diligence and effort, that we didn't achieve our goal. There were just a number of factors and variables that came into play last year where we couldn't realize that total reduction. So I will stop there.
Thank you, Dr. Brenner. And so that's kind of an explanation, some wrap-up of how these numbers are coming in for this year. When we talk about a preliminary budget, we're looking for the year forward. Here I've put the most recent year wrap-up right next to that preliminary budget, and you can see what's coming here, revenue expenditures, is that expenditure over revenue of 2.9 million. So the structural issue in this year will continue into the next year, and then that'll be a little bit exacerbated. So that's what you can see here, and kind of the takeaway of that second column is, we would obviously continue to go in the wrong direction if that's where we end up landing on this final budget. But there's a lot going on in this budget beyond just that continuation of those positions that were just discussed. We're bringing on a new career impact academy. We're implementing a new virtual high school. We continue in strong direction with curriculum investments. And then even ESSER dollars that came in just a few short years ago, the first tranche were largely used for technology purposes, and that was fantastic at the time. We got a lot of new computers and a lot of stuff, but a lot of that stuff expires or reaches end of life at the same time, and so we're mitigating just what that looks like for teacher staff and then the student Chromebooks or devices as well. So there's a lot going on in that budget. And I would say that there are still variables at play. This is preliminary budget. Definitely wanted to include what reality could look like, but what we can do between now and when we come back to the board on September 22nd is continue the work. And there's things that will come to show. So, for example, we built this budget off of largely the folks that we've had employed over the past year. Because all summer long, we worked to get those contracts out and get those contracts back, but we're also hiring new employees. We're getting everybody into the system come the new school year startup. So September 15th, which is the first biggest payroll here of the year, is when everybody gets into that accounting system and we can see not only what their compensation is, but what deductions they've chosen. It's open enrollment right now, for example. And so just one example we've talked about during negotiations even is if you have a experienced retiring teacher eventually be replaced with someone who's newer and not quite as experienced, they're going to have a different position on that pay matrix. That wouldn't be completely captured here. So that things will move a little bit. Also, you never entirely know which students are going to show up or how many of them will show up until you get to that first day and you start counting kids and desks. And so that's another one. And then even on the grant allocations, clearly there's been a lot of movement at the federal level. And just on Friday, I think it was finally announced that Title II, III, and IV were to be released. And from the state, we've heard some correspondence, but yet no figures or numbers even on that front. So my only point is to demonstrate that there's still a bit of movement that can take place between the preliminary budget and the final budget. And so that kind of takes us to these next steps here before happy to answer any questions, but what the action is tonight is to consider the preliminary budget and set a public hearing. It's important second step is to set a public hearing for September 8th, 6 p.m. at the Mark Sanford Education Center, so we can get that information over to the county and that can be publicized across the school district. And eventually, like I said, the work continues coming back September 22nd, and Dr. Brenner mentioned too, we have that fall retreat here in the middle of August where I'm sure we'll talk about a number of concepts there as well. Again, happy to answer any questions about this. This is a summary of the document that's within the memo, but wanted to put it in PowerPoint format.
Questions for Mr. Baumbach? Dr. Lund?
Just two quick questions. The fraud loss that we incurred, is that on last year's budget or is that in this year's budget? And if it's on last year's budget, was that part of that negative balance at the end of the year?
Yeah, good question, Dr. Lund. The fraud loss will be reported on last year's budget, but it will not be in this budget. This is our general fund budget. That was related to the building fund.
And then, and if you don't know the answer to this now, you can tell me later. I'm just curious, do we know what it costs on average to educate a student in Grand Forks compared to how much money we get from the state?
Yeah, we do know that, Dr. Lund, and I could articulate at least at the high school level. I was just looking at these numbers, but I don't remember the exact numbers, but whereas we get just over $11,000 per student, it would cost us roughly $17,000 to educate the student. So there's a little gap. It's kind of a 2/3, 1/3 gap.
I would not say that's little.
Ms. Flynn?
It's just more of a question and a comment, but as we move forward with this year's budget, I wonder if it would be helpful to articulate whenever there's a financial ask to really hone in on whatever's budgeted for that category and to more so just highlight like this line is, we're going to go over with this request, or this will put us at 90% of this line item, because I think that helps at least me. Let's say we get a curriculum request early in the school year that's going to put us at 80% of that total budget, then it helps us keep a benchmark, you know, as we move through the year. So certainly we get those financial reports, but there's a lot of numbers, and I just wonder if maybe we can articulate that through some of our conversations in a better way as we kind of move through some things. So I guess more so that's just where my brain is going. I don't know if it would be helpful for others, but certainly helps with the requests over under where we're at during the year.
Go ahead, Mr. Baumbach, and then I can piggyback on that comment. But
Just
please.
happy to accommodate that in our accounting system. We have those numbers readily available. So if it's a matter of when a request comes to the board to include that, not difficult.
I'm just going to piggyback on that comment and then open up the floor again to other board members. Along with that, if there is a great need, an urgent need, a changing landscape, I mean, we get this. This is a constantly moving target. Perhaps as we're getting close to those individual line item marks or even over, some illumination of what else could give at the same time. You know, we might do this in response. We're also at the same time, or the plan is something else is decreasing. So that would help us, especially as we're trying to hold at least as close to a balance as possible. Other questions, comments from board members? Mr. Clevin?
So on the proposed budget, that's kind of mostly focused on the revenue side. But on the expense side, are we planning anything to kind of manage the expense? And if so, what's the risk of not achieving that? You know, like we kind of missed a little bit on our cost control this year. So I'm just rephrasing the question. Do we have similar goals for the upcoming year? And in which of those think we have a risk of missing our target on?
Yeah, I'd be happy to address that. So largely, you know, our salary and benefit component of our budget is nearing 85% of the entire budget. And so what we do is we take that employee group from the prior year and we apply all the rules of the negotiated agreement. We make those assumptions. So sometimes folks will accomplish their doctorate degree in between. Congratulations again. And sometimes they'll change their deductions. All that stuff doesn't enter the system until late in this year, this time frame. So all that largely will take care of itself. The control we have on that is position control. And at this point, too, contracts are extended, et cetera. So we're largely in the boat we're going to sail in for the rest of the year on that component of it. So you look to items that you have some discretion on, consider, you know, dues and fees or supply lines or things like that. And you would set the budgets to ask all parties across the district to contribute to kind of keeping this under control. And so that's what we will, you know, spend the better part of the next time frame here too, scouring through. Obviously, you need to give folks the equipment to teach too, but that would be number one. If you take a longer look at the budget, then you can look at more structural conversations. You know, one-to-one technology requirements for students. Is that something that we want to continue with? Does every, you know, age group student need their own personal device? Neighborhood schools, you know, do we charge for busing? Any of those kinds of bigger concepts, I think you take the time, have that board level conversation to consider those elements a little bit longer term. But between now and September, you need to look at the cost control on those discretionary items.
So when would we have those kind of detailed conversations that, for example, that Mr. Baumbach just referenced?
I would say that the beginning of those conversations will be on August 14th, and then there's just going to be a lot of work in earnest between board meetings.
Thank you.
Did you want to add something, Mr. Bakke?
Yeah, thank you, President Berger, members of the board. One other thing to also note is the impact that enrollment has on the overall budget. As enrollment increases, obviously the number of teachers that we need in the classroom tends to increase as well. As articulated by Dr. Brenner when it came to elementary class size reductions, we saw a huge enrollment last year at our elementary level. This year, right now, our kindergarten numbers are sitting pretty low in comparison to last year. And so are we going to see some reductions? We're holding on some staffing right now as a result of our low kindergarten numbers at this point in time. Now, does that mean it won't raise in 3 weeks, and all of a sudden, number of kids will show up at our doorstep. That happens. So that will adjust as the year's going on, and we've held on some hires that we're waiting on to see if the kids actually show up from there. So enrollment has a huge impact on it, at least from an elementary side of things, to keep in mind.
Other questions or comments from board members? Dr. Lund?
Just to reiterate, I think what Brandon said is, 85% of the budget is personnel. And it's like turning the Titanic around. You don't just flip it really quick. So those kinds of things take a while. And then we end up in a case like we did this last year where we had more students, we needed people. Well, if we don't have them, we aren't going to fire a bunch of people mid-year. So it takes a while to turn that around. So I think the administration has done a wonderful job with this. I'm disappointed we won't make our goal, but I think we didn't make our goal because we needed to educate kids in this community, and I think we did our job.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, Dr. Lund, by setting ourselves toward that goal, yes, we're seeing at least, preliminarily, we might head backwards before we find some more momentum again. But we had the funds when we needed the funds, and spent down some operating reserve and went into the red. Again, to Brandon's original point, everyone had students in mind when these decisions were made. Everyone has present tense students in mind when these decisions are made. Other questions, comments from board members? What's before you tonight is a request for approval of this preliminary budget and tax levy. I'm imagining, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, that also in this motion would be a statement about the public hearing on the property tax levy for Monday, September 8th, 2025. That would be at 6 o'clock here at MSEC. So I would seek a motion to both approve this preliminary budget and tax levy and state that the school board will conduct a public hearing on that levy during its meeting on Monday, September 8th, 2025, 6 p.m. It's been moved by Dr. Lund. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Clevin. Any further discussion? Yes, Mr. Clevin?
The public meeting is not part of the school board meeting, but occurs at the beginning of it. Like, how's that structure look like? Just curiosity question, irrelevant to the merits here.
No, I think that's exactly right, the way you said that. Public, well, I better make sure, I'm getting a nod from Cindy to make sure that occurs just like you said, right away, 6 p.m., and then the board meeting will follow.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so different from a citizen comment period. We hold the hearing at 6. Thank you, Mr. Clevin. Other thoughts, comments about the motion on the floor, which again is to approve the preliminary budget and tax levy and set the public hearing for Monday, September 8th? We'll take a roll call vote.
Larson is absent. Manley?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
Palmasino?
Yes.
Hodak?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Clevin?
Yes.
Flynn? And Berger?
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no, 1 absent.
Motion passes. 2I, consideration of governmental lease for bus for Career Impact Academy routes. Mr. Baumbach.
Thank you, members of the board, President Berger. So what you have in here in front of you is a conversation that originally came to the Finance Committee and was discussed, but had not come to the board until the exact lease structure was looked at. I just want to give a little bit of context to what was discussed at that board meeting, or at the Finance Committee meeting, was really thoughtful consideration about how we ensure access to the new Career Impact Academy. Prior to the Career Impact Academy, these courses were provided at either Red River or Central. And in some cases, both buildings offered those courses, and in many cases, they did not. So if you wanted to take part of the autos lab and you were a Central student, you had to find your way to Red River to take part in that. Similarly here, all of our students, or for most courses, will be going to the Career Impact Academy, and so we've really been thoughtful and considered how to ensure access. In doing so, we explored options. I would characterize those as 3. One would be, what would it take for our busing partner, Valley Bus, to provide busing to and from the Career Impact Academy to both high schools. 2 would be, what if the school district completely operated the number of routes required to do the same? Or 3 is a hybrid. Ultimately, there was a hybrid option that was explored and really kind of weighed in from Finance Committee, and that would be that the Grand Forks Public School Districts operates a 50-some passenger bus, I forget the number, 55 passenger bus, and would circulate a route from Red River Central to the Career Impact Academy and back for 3 blocks of the day. But the turnaround time for the middle block was a little too difficult, so it was required a hybrid approach of asking Valley if they could bring in a bus just for that middle section of the day, more of a day charter or shuttle. And so it would not be a full route. And combined, that was the most cost-effective method. What I would require of the Grand Forks Public School District is to endeavor upon busing, which has been the first time in quite some time. So we needed to purchase or lease a bus, also hire a bus driver, and really facilitate the operations of a bus route. And so that had been articulated as part of the conversation as well. Ultimately, the bus lease identified at Harlow's and financed through the Horizon Bank is what's in front of you for a decision today. What this would be is stepping into a 3-year lease before a purchase to option to purchase. And the reason being in that we don't entirely know just what the requirement or needs of this bus route will be, so taking it 1 year at a time seems a little bit prudent. The terms thereof are about $24,747.27 for those first 3 years, and then that option to purchase is the balance remaining at $72,875. The last note here, interesting part of the New Market Tax Credit Program, which is a program primarily driven to provide community benefit to an underserved or underinvested area, which is the census tract that this building exists in, had a component of a community benefit grant, $240,000, that would then be invested into the community in some form or fashion. We've been exploring from the very beginning this option of providing access as above and beyond from what we normally do today. We don't provide transportation from Red River or from Central to Red River, for example, in my autos example. And so this would be above and beyond to ensure access. So we continue to work with the partners in New Market Tax Credit, but it'd be expected that that would offset the cost of this route for at least the first 2 years. So that would really help us understand the need for this bus and if it's something we continue before taking it on the general ledger. So we're still working out those details in that, but that's the plan here. So all the attachments is the actual lease. I did have our attorney Cobb go through and review this. Associated agreement to provide insurance and some other documents there you can page through. But largely in total, it has our attorney sign off, and so the administrative recommendation would be to approve the government lease agreement with Horizon Bank.
Questions from board members? Mr. Palmasino?
I think we talked before, this bus will be available before and after school for activities if we want, so it's to be controlled by us.
That's right. We would hold that title and operate it, and so we could use it for other activities, likely a second driver because it'd be a full route driven during the day. But if we had a coach with the CDL and they're taking the team just down the road, we could use it for that.
Questions from board members or comments from others on the Finance Committee? Mr. Clevin?
So the New Market Tax Credit, $240,000 over 2 years. And you said that will cover the costs of the bus. Does that include the lease payment, driver,
Yes.
all of that?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. Yeah, the operation of the bus route for 2 years. So that would include the driver, associated benefits of the driver, the lease payments, the insurance, fuel of that. Those are, projections of what we think those things will cost, but yeah, that's the way it was imagined.
So we think this is kind of cash flow neutral when we're all said and done?
That's exactly the plan.
Thank you.
Other questions from board members? I just have one clarifying question. This might be a little too much into operations, but I heard you say a bus driver singular. What's the backup plan somebody gets sick or injured or has an accident or, needs to be unavailable for a day, a week. I don't even want to suppose the answer, so I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, we've required Jonathan Elwine get his CDL as backup. No, but that's exactly the plan here too, is that we would have other credentialed drivers who would fill in. And that's kind of the, as we dip the toe into perhaps having a bus or even a fleet of buses, is you need to build the capacity for that. And so even with that hybrid option, it was because if you didn't have enough to hire a second driver fully for the second route, then could you really feasibly do that? And so there's questions there, but we do have other people on staff with the CDL that could jump in case of short-term vacancy or missed time.
Thank you. Other questions from board members? As you can see in your board packet, there is, now my screen is stuck, but there is a recommendation to approve this governmental lease. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. This is why you're right next to me. I was so close. I would seek a motion to approve the governmental lease agreement with Horizon Bank. It's been moved by Mr. Clevin. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Palmasino. Any further discussion? We'll take a roll call vote.
Anderson,
Yes.
Flynn,
Yes.
Hodak,
Yes.
Clevin.
Yep.
Larson is absent. Lund. Manley.
Yes.
Palmasino. Berger.
Yes.
8 yes, 0 no, 1 absent.
Motion passes. We are on to item 3A. These would be announcements. Does anyone have announcements for tonight? I have 2. I have a friend who took one of their children to swimming lessons at the central pool. So just want to highlight there is water in the pool and swimming is happening. Just thrilled to hear that. So that's one. The second one is, you probably know this already, but the ribbon cutting and open house for the Career Impact Academy is Wednesday, August 13th. Ribbon cutting is 1 and a public open house later that day. So encourage everyone to attend, encourage everyone listening to attend. If you need more information, please reach out to Mr. Ripley or someone else at MSEC. 3B, board requests for future consideration.
Mr. Berger,
Yes, Mr. Clevin.
Just bumping it up on the whole district boundary attendance things, where we're at with that. At some point, it'd be great to get an update on that.
Yeah, so on Thursday, August 14th, our work session, one of our items will be rolling out the school boundaries, timing, framework, the policies surrounding that movement. So I appreciate the opportunity to clarify that. That's the next move. Other board requests for future consideration? 3C, school board meeting norms. Mr. Manley, how did we do?
The thorough preparation, Norm 1, allowed for a smooth process and dedication to respecting each other's contributions. Norm 3 made for a truly thoughtful discussions. Norm 4. Thank you.
This is like MI, manly intelligence. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.